I'd like to introduce Amy Gowder to you.
Good afternoon. How are you guys? Good. So a little bit more about me. I started out, I was an engineer undergrad, and then when I got into Accenture, I worked in the high-tech industry. So Dell, up in Austin, Applied Materials, Microsoft, HP. So I was always in and around the manufacturing floor and in and around high-tech. Obviously, not a lot of women in those industries. And then I joined Lockheed Martin in about 10 years ago. And I joined in supply chain, and I've had the opportunity to work in supply chain, in the aftermarket space, in finance, in operations. And now I run our 2 engine facilities, engine overhaul facilities, and I have about 400 people that I'm responsible for, mostly technicians, some engineers. And our workforce is about 20% women in my current operation. And across Lockheed Martin, there's only about 20% women in leadership. So I've always been in the high-tech field, always in and out around operations. So just my little walk across your factory floor gave me energy and reminded me. My tack time, our engines, we repair them in about 60 days. So our tack time is fairly fast, but it's a very different environment because we are doing repair on the engines, not doing manufacturing of new cars. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. So I'm going to talk to you guys about my leadership journey and being a woman in aerospace and defense. And I'm going to give you kind of 3 pieces of advice, if you will. One's around taking initiative. One's around standing out to fit in. And then the third is really about employee engagement and how you do a leader. So I'm going to draw some, you guys are the experts on lean. It's definitely something I have a lot of passion around, and I'm going to show you what that means to me in my career journey. So those are the things I'm going to cover, and I'll hopefully save a couple minutes for questions here. And I don't have lots of words on slides. I have lots of pictures. So taking initiative in my career, it was really those opportunities where I saw something that needed to be done. So first example, I was working as a consultant at Dell. We were implementing this factory scheduling tool. The team was behind. They were behind in developing the processes. They were behind in developing testing. And I had gotten the opportunity to learn that tool through some training. So I was on another team. I was on the data team, and I jumped in because they needed help. I didn't do that for the glamour and the glory. I did it because the team needed help. And I took initiative because I had a skill that could help them. And as a result of being on that team and learning how and helping them get caught up on their testing and get caught up on their processes, I was able then to go on and lead the team. So then I went on and led the factory implementation because I had learned it and done so well and helped them so much. They said, okay, I want you to go run the factory implementation in Tennessee and the one in Malaysia and the one here in Austin. And this was at 25. So I wasn't very old looking. So most of my career I've managed people who were older than me. And it was through that initiative that I got that opportunity. Now, taking initiative, another example, I was working for a boss in Lockheed, and he had promised the COO a solution to a problem in supply chain. And he had been sent off for these trips across the country, and I knew he didn't have time to do it. So I developed a whole project plan and a charter. You guys know for lean, a charter. And so I then took it. So my boss came back and says, Amy, I'm going to have to go in and talk to the COO, and I don't have anything. I'm going to have to say I'm flat on it. There's nothing I can do. And I said, well, Willie, this may not be what you were thinking, but here's something. So he said, come with me, because you're going to have to help me brief this, because I obviously don't know all the details you know. And so it was through that experience, I went with him to the COO. COO liked it. We changed some things, but then that opportunity let me lead the project, and I started briefing all the vice presidents. And then that got me an assignment for broader responsibilities leading the supply chain piece in the aftermarket. So it wasn't because I wanted the glory. It wasn't because I was taking over someone's responsibilities. You have to do it in the right way. But taking initiative gives you the opportunities you never thought you'd have. And it also, but in order to take initiative, what you have to do is you always have to be paying attention in the areas beyond your area, in the other people's areas. So when you go to a meeting, you may be in production control or quality, and so you're focused on the quality pieces of that meeting. You have to be listening to the whole thing. You have to be paying attention. So had I not been in the meetings paying attention to the factory team was behind schedule and that I could help them, or paying attention to the fact that my boss had been given this assignment and he knew he couldn't get it done, and I had been paying attention to all the supply chain issues in all these other meetings, I wasn't looking at the big picture and trying to connect dots, I wouldn't have ever had those ideas to take initiative. So that's one thing I encourage entry-level professionals. When you go in a meeting, it's not about just your piece. You need to be listening for the whole meeting and thinking about other people's perspectives and what's going on. The other thing on taking initiative, and I'll show you a picture here, this is at my factory here down in San Antonio, that I think especially women need to be cautious of. Where are you placing yourself in these meetings? So you see this meeting, you see a bunch of men standing around. There's the woman. She's kind of hiding in the back, isn't she? So how do you get a seat at the table? How do you take initiative and become part of the team? A couple of women I coach, you see here one, you have a woman against the wall and you have one at the table. A lot of the women I coach will go in and immediately sit on the back wall. I'm not supposed to be at the table. Now, there are some meetings, don't get me wrong, where there's executives, and there's a rank and order, and you got to let the higher rank people be at the table. But many meetings, it's a team of peers. And so don't automatically sit against the wall. Don't automatically, in this previous picture, she's a short little lady. She's having trouble seeing. You need to get right up there in front, and you're part of the team. You have something of value to add. Many of the women I coach or mentor will tell me, well, they always ask me to be the note taker in the meeting. How many of you have had that experience, right? So you can be the note taker. That's fine, but have another role. Or even better, I had an experience just a year ago where one of my mentees said, Amy, they always have me order the catering and do the agenda and do the slides. And I said, well, that is an opportunity for you to be part of a meeting that you normally wouldn't, and you can learn, and again, back to that big picture, understand what people are doing. But you have to say, okay, I'd be happy to help you with that agenda. I'd be happy to do that. But can I also do this piece of it? Find some small way to contribute and actually present something. Present part of the slides. So you have to take those opportunities, but then don't always relegate yourself. There's polite ways. Well, I took notes last time. I'd really like to participate this time. What about so-and-so taking the notes? They haven't had the opportunity. So there's opportunities to say no, as long as you bring another solution. So that's one of my first kind of key points to you is take an initiative and get a seat at the table. So like Taryn here, she's at the table. Unlike Maria, she's sitting against the wall. And I can tell you, you guys don't know these people, but the gentleman at the end, the security guard, and the one in the plaid shirt, they're lower ranked than the woman against the wall. So be mindful of how you're participating in these opportunities. So then, standing out. So I use this picture because some of you will recognize Dave Crouch here. So when I'm asked to speak on a panel, except for the one I spoke with Sandy 2 weeks ago, other than that panel, this is a typical panel I sit on. So it's me and 2 middle-aged white guys, right? So look at these panels. So I certainly stand out, right? And this applies to other minority groups as well. I stand out. So that's an advantage of mine, because when people see me later in the conference or after the meeting or run across me again, they remember me because I look different. I sound different. There's a higher expectation of me because they're saying, wow, there's these two middle-aged white guys. Of course, they know something. What does she know? So I have to be prepared, and I have to know that I'm going to say something. There also comes a responsibility with standing out. So when you stand out and people remember you from these conferences, you have to remember them. So think about it. When people are coming up to me afterwards, and there's a lot of other middle-aged white guys coming up to talk to me, I have to pay attention and remember them. I have to make a conscious effort to treat the fact that I stand out with respect and to treat that as a responsibility. So, standing out to fit in, it also gives me an opportunity to be prepared and to make an impact on my industry. So whether, I think David and I were talking about the manufacturing industry and the skilled needs broadly here in San Antonio. The other panel was aerospace and defense. So these opportunities where I stand out, it gives me an opportunity to be prepared and have a message. And being prepared is really important. So I'll tell you another story of standing out and being prepared. I first got in this role, and we were having an issue with our subcontractor. And it wasn't getting resolved at the working level. It kept getting escalated. I tried to meet with their CEO. They still weren't making progress. And so they sent a letter to my chairman, my corporate chairman, all the way up to the top. So of course I got a lot of attention, but my company had faith that I knew what I was doing and I had a good business rationale and I was prepared. And they said no, and they told the supplier, you can send your corporate chairman or your chair of your board to come meet with Amy, but you're negotiating with Amy. And so they called me and they said, okay, we want to meet in 2 days in New York City at the Harvard Club. They were trying to intimidate me, right? They were trying to make it a quick trip in the Harvard Club on their territory with all the prestige that goes with that. And so I had to prepare. I had to be ready for anything that they were going to throw at me. I had to know the data. And being prepared doesn't mean you do it by yourself. I didn't lock my door and sit in my office. I brought all of the people on my team around me. I brought some of my counterparts in finance. I did mock negotiations. I had them throw all the scenarios they could think at me so that I was really prepared. So I fly to New York, get in the car, go down to the Harvard Club. You're watching all the old gentlemen in the three-piece suits walking around, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I stand out again. And we ended up started negotiating. He had to end up being the one to walk out the door 3 times and get on the phone because he wasn't prepared. And we finally found a win-win solution in that deal and settled the deal. But had I not been prepared, standing out and people trying to put me back on my heels could have been a bad situation. Or my corporation could have said, okay, they've escalated all the way up to the top. Amy's not doing what she should do. So I share that standing out and being prepared is really important. When you do stand out, people do remember you. Have something to say. Be credible. Be prepared. Do your homework. And then take it with responsibility because people will remember you. You've got to equally remember them. And that may be harder because they were in the audience. But that's been, I feel like standing out allows you to fit in because it allows you to create those connections. So I've had a great working relationship with David, right? These are opportunities to make connections to fit in the community and contribute something. So then my last topic, employee engagement. And you guys, this should be near and dear to your heart because I know Toyota's values and principles are all about this. But my team in San Antonio, they had to take military work, which was very stable, very repeatable, and very slow, to be honest with you, to commercial, which commercial customers want variable work scopes, customization, and they want it in half the time and for half the cost. So how do you make that radical of a change with your people? So my team in Montreal, this is my team in Montreal. They were shut down. We bought them and rebirthed them and gave them new life. So I could have brought in a bunch of lean experts from Lockheed Martin, sent them up to Montreal and said, go lay out this factory. That's not what we did. We wanted those employees to own it. So we had a bare factory for them. We let mechanics, technicians, engineers, management design the new layout. And they came up with this. I didn't just send a bunch of SMEs and experts and force something on them. I said, you're going to do this. In San Antonio, we did the same thing as we were improving the processes. But I told them to experiment. So these three guys, not their management, not their IEs, these three guys figured out a way to do 24 boxes of packaging or repairable parts and sending them out versus 7 in the same time. That didn't happen on the first try. We had to let them try and fail. We had to give them real experimentation. So I challenge each of you, how are you, as you're doing improvements, how are you letting them try and fail? Giving them guidance and tools they need, but how do you let them come up with a solution? That's really, really important, because then they own it. They buy in, and they'll think of other things to improve the situation. The other thing we do in San Antonio, and I encourage everyone in management, and even those of you informal leaders, is over-communicate. So have a tempo. Make sure people are clear on the goal and how we're making progress, but over-communicate. So I do a monthly stand-up. I walk around. I have a newsletter. So these are really important things to keep everyone on the same page. Because what we found, there's a book called The Oz Principle that does this. The experiences you have every day change the beliefs, and that changes what people do and the results you get. So in San Antonio, I told you they had to go through a major change. So we changed what they did every day. And our supervisors at the beginning, at the very top, were spending 7% of their time on the floor. The rest of the time was in meetings and administration. So we changed their daily experience, and we got them, now they're on the floor 34% of the time. We still got work to do, but through changing their everyday experiences and actions, we changed their beliefs and what they felt was important and how they were spending their time. And that changed results. So if you look at the bar, that's a goal. We've brought the hours per engine down on both our commercial and military significantly. They were running 20% over budget till now 20% under budget and starting to sustain those results. But it was only through changing daily experiences that we were able to identify the problem and work on it. Then the last thing I'll leave you with is it's really important to engage the workforce like I showed you on a daily basis. But it's also important to engage their whole self. So, we work in a very diverse community here in San Antonio. My Montreal community, if you can believe it, is even more diverse. I have even more language. I think I have 12 languages spoken up in my Montreal plant. So I have a really diverse community. So we make sure there's times in which we engage them in different ways as their whole self. That you're bringing your whole self to work and that you have the opportunity to interact with people outside your team. Because that's the other thing. We found the work cells click up and they eat lunch together every day. You got to give people opportunity to engage each other in a structured setting and in a way they can express themselves. That bottom left picture there of the bird feeders. It was a creative way. Some of our shyest guys came up with the most innovative bird feeders we had. And it gave people an opportunity to really get to know each other. So we make time to do that too. So those are some of the initiatives that we do in our factory. This last slide I'll leave you with is really a call to action. So you all in this manufacturing space, we in aerospace and defense, we don't have a skilled pipeline that we need for the future. And we're seeing kids, primarily in junior high, lose interest in science and math. So one thing we focus on, and I want to challenge everyone in this room, is how are we mentoring people in this community or this extended community to stay interested in science and math? So from our technicians to our facility guys to our engineers, we have to focus on the pipeline. We have to focus on the future. And especially with girls, the statistics will tell you junior high is critical. You can have girls who are really excited about science and math in elementary school, and then suddenly by the time they hit 12, 13, peer pressure, lack of role models, lack of motivation, lack of someone talking to them about careers, that's where they go, other paths. And frankly, you have a lot of business majors who are graduating who can't find jobs. But yet we're having shortages in the technical fields, in our manufacturing and engineering fields. So all of you can play a role in that. There's lots of things in the San Antonio community. I love this community. It's one of my favorites so far, because there is a lot of opportunity to contribute and to support each other. So those are, I think I did pretty good on time. I did. So I have 5 minutes here before you guys have to start heading back to the production area. Take initiative, stand out to fit in, and contribute to your teams and to the community. Those are kind of my key messages. So what questions do you guys have for me?